Hey everybody, it's DJ Jazzy Cat back on the Chill Factor Radio. As you know, it is Wednesday, and we have, of course, our wise beyond her years, Miss Ann Canfield from Finding Strength today. Good afternoon, good evening. Hello, Ann. How are you?
I am doing absolutely wonderful. I'm so glad to be here, and I'm really excited about today's episode that is in our series about building relationships one conversation at a time. And the reason why this is exciting is because today's episode is about how to overcome this social anxiety sometimes we have for like new relationships or going into a room full of people that we don't know anybody. Have you ever had this scenario?
Absolutely. Kathleen? Yes, definitely. With any kind of going into a job just alone, relationship.
Exactly.
Your job is your relationship, right?
Yeah. So it's kind of this idea of like, what do we do and how do we navigate these new experiences where we would love to be able to just go into a room of people that we don't know anybody, and how do we start these conversations recognizing that there could be a new relationship in this room, and how do we kind of get those conversations started? So I'm going to start with a story. If anyone has ever watched the series called Royal Pains, it's on Netflix. It's a phenomenal show. I highly recommend it. And there's a great character in the show called Jeremiah. And Jeremiah is a doctor, but he's actually like a researcher, and he normally works in the lab, and he doesn't work with any people. And then he decides to interview and get a job as a concierge doctor, going to people's homes to do physicals and help them with injuries and whatnot. And he has this major social anxiety about this because he doesn't talk to people well. He just doesn't interact well with people. He doesn't pick up on social cues. The reason why it's so awesome is because during the course of the series, he learns how to interact with people, but sometimes he fails and they don't get his reference, or he says something that isn't something that kind of lands well. But what's great about it is Jeremiah doesn't give up. And the reason why he doesn't give up is because he has other people that work with him, that support him, and they care about him, and it doesn't bother him as much, if that makes sense, right?
Absolutely.
And so it's the idea that the reason why I bring up this story of Jeremiah is because I want us to recognize that just because something doesn't land every time, don't take it to heart. Don't sweat it. Keep getting out there and keep trying. And the 4 steps that we're going to talk about today regarding overcoming social anxiety is, number 1, getting the invitation to engage. How do we do that? Number 2, how do we accept the invitation to engage with somebody else? What does that look like? Number 3, what I like to call the callback to a previous part of the conversation. And number 4 is the most important one, is that you're going to give the opportunity to engage with somebody in conversation without the investment of the outcome. It's okay. And what's interesting is that we know that navigating social cues can be risky if it has not been positive experience in the past. And I'm going to tell you my horrific story that has haunted me for years. When I was in kindergarten, in the very first school that I ever went to, and I must have been there probably 3 months. And of course, I'm this little bitty girl in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, trying to make friends. And somehow, some way, one of the little girls had told me that her mom was Linda Carter, Wonder Woman. And what's interesting about this story is that that is a very real fact, because we were very close to Miami, Florida, and then we knew there were a lot of actresses that lived in Fort Lauderdale and Miami. It was like the hip place to be in Florida. And so I apparently was incredibly naive, and I believed this girl that her mom was Linda Carter. Long story short, it was completely a lie, and I was made fun of terribly by every person in that class. And the sad thing is all of those people that were in that class followed me all the way to high school. And the reason why I tell that story is because sometimes when we have that one bad positive experience, we try to engage in conversation and we think it kind of goes well, and then it flops and it goes poorly. It can kind of follow us where we don't want to take the risk again, right?
Sure.
We're just like, I'm just going to keep my mouth quiet. I don't really know. I don't want to say too much. And we don't want to take the risk, right? To look silly or feel embarrassed in some way. So Deborah Fine has a phenomenal book called The Fine Art of Small Talk. And I highly encourage anybody who wants more information to look at that book. And so what it talks about is the first thing we're going to talk about is getting the invitation to engage. So let me set the scene for you here. Let's just imagine that you have been invited to a co-worker's birthday party. The only person that you know is the birthday girl, but she really wants you to meet the people in her friend circle and her family because she talks about them all the time. You've worked there for like 5 years. And one of the things that Deborah Fine talks about in a situation like this, that if you have some prior information about the people or the event that you're going to go to feel free to look up some information. One example is, we're just going to guess your friend's name is Susie. And Susie's entire family are all Yankee fans. And you might want to just check the rating of the Yankees, the New York Yankees, before you go to the party. And again, you're looking for general information. You're not looking to be the expert. We're looking for the other people that you're going to engage with to be the expert. So let's just imagine you're invited to Susie's birthday party, and you decide to go in there, and all of a sudden Susie's inviting you. Hey, by the way, come meet my Uncle Bob, and this is his friend Jack. And then Susie walks away, and there you are. And what you're going to do is you're going to actually ask some very low-risk questions about the scenery, about something you observe, or something that you may have in common with the person. One example is, hey, Jack, I see that you have a dog picture on your phone. So do you have a dog? Is that your dog? A pretty low-risk question, right? Feels pretty safe to ask that. And again, you're kind of getting the invitation to engage in conversation with Jack. Another one might be, hey, I noticed your keychain has a sloth on it. Do you like sloths? So what you're doing is you're looking for that invitation, and you're using things that might be something that you observe, that you both are observing in the party. You know, it might be something as simple as, oh, they have goat cheese. I love goat cheese. Are you guys enjoying the refreshments at the party or the things that they are serving? So I have to ask you, Kathleen, I know that you attend a lot of different weddings and you see all kinds of people. Are there any kind of go-to questions that you use when you're meeting new people or in those situations?
Oh, many questions arise, and the key is, like you said, eye contact is so important. We talked about that in past with some of your podcasting.
Yep.
Definitely. The bathroom is a big thing. I've been asked that. It's a little odd, but you know what? It's good to open up a conversation piece, and definitely knowing the staff is important. So yeah, I do get asked variations of questions a lot of times. It could be anything from the bathroom to how are you doing today? Another one was, do you like apple cider?
Oh, wow.
So it was a homemade apple cider. That was one of my examples. Wow. And it was nice because it kind of broke the barrier between the DJ, myself, and the staff that works at the venue. So
exactly. And that's kind of the idea that we're looking for, is because, again, I know even when I've been to a wedding or I've been to an event, sometimes I don't know a lot of the people or I don't feel comfortable going up to them. So I will go to somebody who works there or even the DJ and start a conversation, just because I don't feel like standing in the corner for whatever reason. And this is the reason why I'm doing this episode, because I've learned in recent years, and especially like Deborah Fine's book, is really putting myself out there a little bit more. and taking that risk to engage with people and not having this fear of like, I don't know, I'm going to say something stupid or somebody's going to think that's dumb. And that's why I'm doing this, so that we all can kind of feel like we can kind of break that ice a little bit. And so we first kind of get that invitation and we kind of start that first question. And then the next part is actually accepting the invitation. And once that, you kind of start that first thing. So let's say you talk to Jack and you go, yeah, actually, I do like sloths. My nephew has actually started giving me a bunch of sloth items. And so we kind of joke about it because we went to the Bronx Zoo and we love the sloths, right? And so number 2 is we actually accept the invitation to engage. And this is the part that's interesting because sometimes we start the first part and then we might think, oh, well, now I have to give them a story about my experience or something. I'm going to recommend that that is not where we want to go with this. When you accept the invitation to engage, we're going to actually be curious and observant, and we're going to ask follow-up questions, and we're going to get more details about what this person feels or thinks about whatever it is of the topic of the day. You know, and some people might think, well, that's too personal. But when you think about it, they've given you the invitation to engage with them. They've already shared something about themselves. Take the next step and engage further with them. And it might be the idea of saying something as simple as, hey, so when did you start getting, interested in sloths? Or, oh my gosh, when did you go to the Bronx Zoo? That must have been an amazing experience. Even something as simple as asking somebody like, what kind of books do you read? And if we ask them that and they go, oh, well, I like to read murder mysteries, we might think, oh, well, I like to read murder mysteries too. But the challenge is that you want to be interested, not interesting. So ask them a kind of question. What type of murder mysteries do you like to read? Or what was the latest book that you've read for murder mysteries? And that's kind of the idea of being interested in what they talk about. Now, I know for me, I don't know much about sloths. And here, what's really great about this concept of engaging in conversation is you don't need to know any information about whatever topic somebody else brings up. It takes all the pressure off of you, because literally the goal is for you to ask them and for them to kind of be the expert and share that with you. I know I mentioned regarding the Yankees and Susie's entire family being Yankee fans. And if we go to Susie's party and they start talking about the Yankees, go, yeah, I saw that they're actually doing pretty good today. Yeah, they're doing pretty good. Asking them some questions. So who's your favorite player? What kind of games do you like to watch? Do you have a big party when you have a game? There's all these questions you can ask without you ever knowing about the Yankees at all. And that's kind of this idea that it kind of takes the risk out of it for you to feel like, I don't know anything about that topic. Because the goal is for us to show up and for us to show that we are interested in what they're interested in. And what's really fascinating as I have practiced these skills is that sometimes I've been done with a conversation and somebody will say, wow, you're just so easy to talk to. And you're such a great conversationalist. And in reality, I haven't really even carried the conversation. They're the ones that are talking, but we are listening, right? We're asking questions. And I know, Kathleen, you must do this really well because I know that you interview people for the Chill Factor, correct?
Correct. I do. Lots of people,
Awesome.
lots of singer-songwriters, and I have a segment called Kindness with Kat. So yeah, definitely. People from all walks of life.
Exactly. And so our number 3 point is that once we get the invitation, we accept the invitation and engage. The third one is to have a callback to a previous part in the conversation. So, for example, let's say we're having a conversation with Jack at the party, and he talks about sloths, and he goes to the Bronx Zoo with his nephew. And then when we're getting ready to leave, we might go, Jack, it was such a pleasure talking to you. Hey, by the way, enjoy the sloth exhibit. I'll be thinking of you when I check out the Bronx Zoo. I'll have to bring my niece. And you kind of have a callback to a previous part of the conversation that you had with him. And again, it goes back to this idea of really kind of being able to be that listener and to be curious and observant about the person that you're speaking to. The great thing about this is that the more details that you get about the conversation, the more you're going to remember the conversation and the details of that conversation. So if Susie invites you to a Christmas party and some of those people are there, you have a higher likelihood of remembering a conversation that you have with somebody because of the fact that you actually let them do most of the talking and you were just kind of there listening and being engaged in the conversation. And the fourth one is the really, really important part. What we want to do to truly feel good about each conversation that we have, to overcome the social anxiety, is that we're giving the opportunity without the investment of the outcome. We're always wearing our hat, so we show up humble, authentic, and transparent, understanding that everybody has their own agenda. And if they don't respond positively to us, it's not about us. It really is not because we did something wrong or they didn't like talking to us. We're just giving the opportunity and we're showing up as our authentic selves, remembering that our value is not based on somebody else's perception, that you will find your tribe, and being gracious, that you're basically just being a giving person. And it's okay. If you start talking about somebody's Australian Shepherd and their dog, and then all of a sudden they're like, I got to go get a drink. Okay, see you later. It's okay. Don't even sweat it. Keep going to the next thing. And here's the next part. My final note is that you do not need a big event to try out these tips, because every day, each of us probably engage in conversation with a cashier, with somebody who gives us our coffee at the gas station, waiters. These casual encounters during the day, you can still actually engage in these tips. It might not be a long conversation, but the goal is for you to feel confident in being curious and getting the invitation to engage in a conversation and just accepting the invitation, no matter how short the conversation is. Keeping the focus on the other people and walking away or ending the conversation on a high note, knowing that you showed up the best thing you know how to. Because you never know when one of those conversations will actually butt out into more of a relationship that might be a welcome champion in your life. So I have to ask, Kathleen, is there any people in your world that you kind of engage with occasionally in a casual way?
If I had to pick one specific person, my friend Mikey over at the Chill Factor, we talk daily about new ideas. Both of us put our heads together to be creative, and sometimes we agree to agree, and sometimes we don't, but then we figure it out. We definitely have lots to offer.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. And again, it's that idea of kind of just going a little deeper and getting to know people on a personal level, because as human beings, we each are looking, as positive neuroplasticity would tell us, we are each looking to feel safe. We're looking to feel satisfied in some way to get our needs met, but we also are all looking for connection. So I'm hoping that this will let each of the listeners out there be more connected to one another to enjoy each day.
As always, Anne, great information. I really love this topic. I think this is just amazing, and we're definitely going to reach a lot of people. So great job, Anne.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm looking forward to our next episode in this series.
You got it. We'll see you at the Chill Factor, and have a great night.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.